Well,
does anybody have any questions?
maybe just fire some questions.
I think you mentioned that you were going to meet with the coaches today. Is that
yes.
going to happen? And if so, how'd it go? What do you say to them that you can share with us?
Well, I did meet with the coaches today around 11:30. We had the group together, and it went well. We've developed a good rapport over the last few weeks. I think it's a day probably for us to talk about what's next. We've been coming into work every day like I was going to be here forever. So I think that's the way I've treated every day with them, including with David, and getting involved with Greg and being on the phone and interviewing Greg, interviewing Trent to get to this point today. So I'm happy to see that. But the things we talked about, again, back to the same fundamentals, is that we have a lot of emotion going on, particularly today. There's going to be a day of healing for sure. I mean, guys are going to go in and out of offices and chat with each other, and I'm good with that. It's human nature, right? So we really talked about that process, but really getting on with it, and that we have a lot of projects in place, and then how I'm going to help them with their programs, help in recruiting. I'll be involved with that. I will be this evening with a family, and to David's point earlier, when he's talking about families asking about recruiting, that's something I'm happy to be involved with and give them my thoughts on that as well.
Did you watch the segment last night with Coach Pitino and have any thoughts on it?
No, like David, I just saw a snippet of it. To be honest, I was working. I mean, I got home really late and I was up really early, so I only saw one quick. Actually, I heard it a little bit on the radio later this morning, and that's it. So I haven't watched it.
Business connected as you are here. A few weeks ago, I think you pretty much knew what you were getting into, but now through each other, did you really know what you were getting into?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the good thing is I was able to do some diligence beforehand. I didn't take this opportunity blindly. Being this close to the athletic department and being particularly close to the university from my seat on the foundation board, there wasn't a lot of secrets per se. I know a lot of the coaches have helped them, today. It's learning the inner workings of the athletic department and the budget and how things work in decision making and flipping through org charts. So I have my own style. I'm a transparent person. You guys probably already get. I'm pretty genuine. So I don't have a big agenda. I'm not looking to be the AD at Ohio State where Greg from every place else. My only interest right now is just being a really good AD to these coaches and these student athletes. So I think they understand that, and it immediately develops a lot of trust. And I think they've been able to do their own research on me. For those who don't know me, they're asking questions about my own business background and the successes I've had. They understand I've had success before getting here in business and in sports, and that I didn't come here for a paycheck.
I think through the course of the Tom Jurich situation, with a lot of large dollar donors, influential people who put their support behind Tom, have you any plans to sit down with them, reach out to them now that has played out?
Well, I did that before. I haven't been waiting around for that. I mean, I spoke to Mark Lynn about this opportunity before I accepted the opportunity. I knew what Mark wanted to do in terms of his letter. I knew what the coaches wanted to do in their terms of letter. They counseled with me on those. I had an opportunity to get a peek, and had no issues with that. I met with Dr. Lynn last Friday in his office for an hour and a half. We chatted about a lot of things. So in terms of donors, I've been over to John Snodder's office, had lunch at his desk. We talked a lot about his values and how he's developed his business and how they relate to what we're trying to get done here in the university. So a lot of those conversations are going to continue with what I consider our large donors. But there's a lot of small ones that need attention too.
There's a report out there that all employees associated with men's basketball are not to talk to Coach Pitino. Is that true? And I guess where did that come from?
Well, I think the direction we've given to the organization is there's a federal investigation going on. So it wouldn't be wise for us to interfere with that. So I think that's our view. Is the direction is that be careful about where you're communicating for obvious reasons.
Given the finality of yesterday, was there, and even though you've been in the office and doing things, was there any different feeling for you today, like, okay, this is it now, this is a certain thing right now? And second, have you had any contact with Tom. You've expressed that you had a relationship with him. Have you had any contact with him since yesterday's vote?
No. So I'll go back to the first one. Today didn't feel any different to me. I mean, I came in today with the same energy and a similar agenda, very packed schedule to get through a lot of stuff. I would back up and say, felt a little different last night. You know, I go to a meeting not knowing the outcome, whether I got to go back and pick up a few binders and leave, or whether I need to go back and get, you know, have another full day ahead. So, you know, last night, not knowing where the board was going to go, certainly didn't have a vote, wasn't a part of that discussion, didn't want to be a part of that discussion. That's probably where I felt maybe a little bit of emotion at that point. But today, it feels just like the other 3+ weeks of coming in and getting after it. No, I have not talked to Tom. I think in lieu of the circumstances, Tom needs to breathe and think about what's going on in his life. He doesn't need the you know, the undue influence of talking with me at this point. I'm sure in time we will, but today's probably not that day.
Have you reached out to any other athletic directors of programs of a similar stature just to get some sense of the job and how to attack the situation?
So I was at the ACC Athletic Directors meeting early this week. So I was down in Miami for that. I flew down Monday evening, got the chance to meet some of them late Monday, and then was in meetings all day Tuesday and took a very late flight home Tuesday night. I would tell you that I've been in regular contact with Commissioner Swafford. We've talked a half dozen times. Each conversation only gets better. And in so much that, frankly, he offered me the chance on Tuesday. He called me back and said, I had a thought. You got a lot of cool stuff going on. Will you speak to our group? I'm going to change the agenda and have you speak to the athletic directors. You got a different viewpoint than I've heard before. And I had the floor for that meeting on Tuesday morning. So at the opening session, as they introduced people there, I was given the floor to speak to them and talk about the number of things that we're doing here to be proactive.
Vince, what needs to happen? What's the next step in deciding Kenny Johnson's final status? What needs to happen?
I don't think there is a next step. There's an investigation going on. I think our feeling is his situation's unchanged, and it'll remain in that position, and you know, until we learn more. And it could take some time. So I don't feel pressured to make a decision on that at all. What I did want to do is what we did today. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to assist David in recruiting high-quality, high-integrity people to be on this staff. And I think that's what's important to families as well. So maybe David can't give all the definitive answers, but I think it's representative of how powerful this program is, that we have the interest that we did. We certainly didn't go after coaches that are currently at other schools. We wanted to see what was available, and this is the nature of the business. There's top talent that comes available every year because this is a lot about wins and losses.
We've talked about the vacancies that Coach Padgett has to fill. Are there any vacancies that you have to fill immediately on your staff or in kind of your inner circle?
No, we're in good shape in the athletic department. I mean, that's the beauty of what Tom's left behind. There's a great foundation, unless Kenny's going to sneak up on me here or something with some early announcement of retirement or something. But no, I mean, that's the thing I'm looking at is just who in the office. To be honest, are there retirements coming up? Are there things going on? Just things happen. I've run a lot of companies where you have somebody has a baby and decides not to come back. You have a whole variety of things going on. I'm trying to be alert to all the individual situations. There's a lot of org charts that I've been flipping through, but meeting with all those people and getting to know them is I don't see any needs at this point.
There were a few football players, that were critical of the Papa John's brand. Obviously, that brand is part of the stadium they play on. What do you say to those guys?
Well, I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the emotion, particularly at 18, 19, 20-year-old kids are going to see things and that they're going to follow on or tweet things. I didn't have to get Bobby was in front of me in terms of that conversation, but he and I did speak about it. These things are going to happen. It's unfortunate. The kids don't mean disrespect. They're being silly. And I think they respect that, John Schneider's been terrific at this program. Papa John's is across that stadium and that they get to play in. It's my role to make sure they understand that and where I stand on it.
Are you able to say anything as the status of Mark Jurich changed? Is he still with the department?
Yeah, Mark's still with the department, still taking a lead on a number of fronts. Mark and I've had a great relationship for a long time that he's been here. As I mentioned before he got in, and even his early days, we sat down, had lunches, and mentoring and talking about management of people and things like that, much like I've done with other student athletes here. And no, Mark's been as you would expect, high class, terrific support. Couldn't ask him more. I actually recognized him today in my earlier staff meeting with everyone for how well he's handled this and really helped out. He's carried on and done a nice job.
When will David be able to move into the coach's office?
That's I think that part of that is when you're doing a federal investigation, the first thing to do is just to protect any evidence. So I hate to say it's kind of necessary steps that you have to do these things on office space. It's the same for me. I'm sitting in a conference room, working off a table. It's just part of the process. We don't necessarily know the time frame when all that happens.
Has the FBI or any legal authority asked you all to